like trying videos when you're 12 makes it easier for us to make videos now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and like that's a big part of like what that giant video that I'm working on is for, is like there's no real reason for me to do this. Like this isn't even that related to like anything I'm doing on my channel. It's just like I want to try like how I can like really cut together like a fucking like, oh, I haven't cursed until now. Until I got to cut together like a really like sick video.
Yeah.
Like,
the power button on this thing doesn't work very well. I have to like really, there we go. This was a little interview I did with my pal Michael almost exactly a year ago from today, which is wild. It feels like a lot longer ago, but only a year. Things can change so much. We talked a lot about just the nature of creativity, what our goals and aspirations were, our struggles in trying to do what we were aiming to do. And at that point, neither of us really had much of anything going on. And in the past year, things have really blown up and, sparking the start of a real career for both of us.
Now that we're in this early stage of like content creators and filmmakers and stuff like that, like you're allowed to switch up as many times as you want to like get a feel out there and be like, okay, this works, this doesn't work, this is like, this kind of works, like stuff like that.
And it's like that video that I'm working on doesn't fit, but also the video I did on Wednesday doesn't fit. This one doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna do stuff if I don't like really want to, so I'm just gonna do the things that feel right. And it's like I really didn't think about the whole creating for you idea until like just now when you brought it up. Like I'm always thinking about like what's my target audience, even though I only have 150 subscribers. What do the people expect, But it's like I need to chill out and like realize that it's like this is the beginning. I'm doing it for me, and I'm doing it to learn,
One of the things that really caught me in rewatching this interview was that clip that I just played of where talking about creating for you instead of focusing too much on your target audience or what you're trying to get out of it. This is a huge thing to balance regardless of whatever creative endeavor you're doing, filmmaking or otherwise. So I figured I'd hop in front of a camera and talk through it again, since I feel like I've had additional clarity on this point. Not that I've figured it out in any sense. It's still very much something that I'm figuring out that balance, but I have extra thoughts from last year. At that time, I felt sort of paralyzed, like stuck in a certain direction because I'd built a small audience doing one thing in one niche, and I wanted to bring that to another niche, and I was very concerned about how to bridge that gap without losing people. And looking back, that was just such a silly thing to focus my attention on, but broad scope, I can sort of see myself making the same mistakes, and I'm trying to avoid saying the word mistakes because things aren't necessarily mistakes. It's just one side or the other on a tight balance. So you either focus too much on the audience and dull down the soul of what you're doing, and you can reach big commercial success doing that, but you're not going to have like a deep connection with your work. And on the other side, you can be an artist's artist, which I know some people like this for sure, where you can just focus entirely on the art and not want to commercialize or spread you're not focused on at all how you're being perceived. You're just doing it to be as pure of an artist as you can, which is sick. But if you're trying to make it part of your career, it just logistically, you can't be a 100% pure artist. So there's a balance, and it's a very hard balance to figure out of how much do I want to worry about how my art is being perceived versus just staying true to myself. And Michael brings up an interesting point in this interview where he talks about how really the beginning of your career, before you're making any money off of it, is the time that you get to experiment the most. And that kind of opened my eyes to not being so worried about how I was being perceived or what my target audience was, and more so just experimenting during the experimentation phase. I think I personally can get stuck in too much of a future future-minded mindset where I'm thinking like 3 years ahead, and I'm thinking about like, how is this trajectory going to go? And I'm trying to be on the ideal path of how events are going to go. And I'm maybe too idealistic in the way I think things are going to pan out. So I'm trying to act now to be in the best spot 3 years from now instead of letting things flow. And it's interesting because I'm realizing as I'm talking through this, like I'm conflicting myself as because I do very much do the experimentation approach. Like it's what my last video was about, is that crazy experimentation approach. And I apply that to like everything, you know, like if I'm repairing a little tool or whatever, I'm doing that reckless experimentation. But it's interesting that when it comes to my videos that are like the things that I'm really like focused on, that's like my career, that flips, and instead of being the rough experimentation type of guy that I am, when it comes to my videos that I really care about, I am not experimental. I want to play it safe more. That's interesting. That my nature can be flipped by a pressure, I guess, that I'm putting on myself, because, you know, when I'm doing something dumb like, you know, making a jackknife with my car keys on it, I am putting zero pressure on myself to make this work. And that's why it's fun, that's why it's interesting, that's why it's unique. Because since I'm putting zero pressure on myself, since I don't care if it fails, I can do whatever I want and experiment. And I learned something from this, and now when I make my second jackknife, it'll be better. But I'm not taking that approach to videos as much because I'm putting a higher level of pressure on myself, which is really interesting that in a way, when I care about the quality of something, it ends up being lower quality. I wonder if any other creatives like have this same strange dilemma, but this is what I'm realizing about my films, I guess, or videos or whatever, that caring too much hurts the results. It's very interesting. And I think as I'm hopping back on the video making horse after 2 weeks of being away from home, I can come at it from an attitude change, I think. Especially after seeing relative success on my last video, got like 8,000 views or something. And that's a video that I made in like 2 days. I gave myself an artificial time limit. I was like, I have to have this done. I actually told Michael, because I was driving away to visit Michael, and I said, hey, if I don't have this video posted by the time I see you, you have to like beat me up or something. And so I put this artificial time limit on that video, and I got it done in 2 days, and it was my most successful video yet. It's funny, I didn't realize until this little monologue right now that I literally what this is about is applying the message of my last video, but instead of applying it to physical creative projects, applying it to filmmaking. And that's literally the lesson that I'm telling myself here. Again, it goes back to what we were talking about in that interview that I played at the beginning. Creating for yourself rather than creating for anybody else, which at that time, I think that conversation was fueled by fulfillment. It's creating for yourself is going to be more fulfilling. But what I'm realizing now, a year later, is that creating for yourself actually is not only more fulfilling, but yields more success. Anyway, that's all. Hopefully the fridge noise doesn't come through here too much, but it's experimentation, baby. It's a second channel video, so who cares?
I think I want a smaller one.